Come out of our recess then at 10:48, back into our work session. And Denise, I erred and didn't ask about additions. I think I have one.
We do have one. Our facilities and properties manager has brought forward discussion regarding the Coghlan communication site lease.
Great, okay. Well, we're gonna move not in order necessarily. We're gonna move to get Kevin, let him get on his way to give us an update on the Dog Lake Road change order, and also ask for a department update. I've asked him to give us an update on a subject that's came before us before.
Review the change order
Yep.
first. Okay, so in front of you is the change order for the change of Dog Lake project to extend 5,330 tons of asphalt. It's base material, hot mix base material to what will be next season's second phase of that project. This is a very good price we got on the first. There was some tonnage that we didn't get into because of the length of phase that we did off the first year, and we have some tons left. This is good for the county, keeps this cost down for at least the second phase of the job for at least the base material. Would include 5,330 tons of asphalt at $74 a ton for $394,420. I think you guys see, look, you have the change order in front of you.
Yes. And just for the audience on camera, the need for this change order initiated for what reason?
The need for the change order initiated because this is a very good price. We decided at the time to split this job into two phases, and this current price will extend us into the remainder of the work, saving us some dollars on the material.
So we'll take this up tomorrow at our regular board meeting at Silver Lake. Okay.
There is on here, if you look at the page 104, there is items on there. This follows the same characteristic or the same model, if you will, of the extension for the milling contract that we went through.
Right.
So there is a fuel cost escalation there in the event that takes place, all of which follows the specs for ODOT.
Very good.
Department update. I'm not sure if it was last meeting or a couple meetings ago. Mr. Young had come in, had concerns about S Street. Commissioner Shown asked me to follow up with him, and I was able to talk to him. I don't have the exact date on some of his concerns, added signage, speed bumps, and through discussion with him, the majority of his concern was an enforcement issue. Some of his suggestions we reviewed, but don't necessarily fit the bill for the additional costs and future costs that those items bring. So after discussing that with him, he understood, and the baseline from what I got when I met with him was that it was mostly an enforcement issue.
I appreciate you following up. You said there's an information.
Oh yeah, he was glad that I came, and I needed to anyway, so it was fine. I know he had come here several meetings with some concerns, so I was able to get a chance to talk to him about it.
And I understand that the sheriff had a few rigs out there, lights on.
Yeah, and I talked with the sheriff too about some of those concerns before I went to meet with him, just so I had a full picture range of information.
Appreciate it.
Very good.
In the event that I am not able, I'd like to just mention some of the concerns for Silver Lake roads that Commissioner Winters had given me when I first started here. I have an idea on how to help the rideability of those roads in the short term, and with some leftover CMS oil, medium set oil that has a fuel cutback in it that I will have at the end of the season, I plan to patch some of those transverse cracks. It's basically a process where we make just a little bit of cold mix on site and do it by hand.
When you're talking about the streets of Silver Lake.
In Silver Lake. And I'm assuming that you may get a question tomorrow on that, so you can extend that information, and on the road review, I can fill you in further so you have more detailed information.
That'd be great.
Thank you very much for that, Kevin. The community there, they do come out, as commissioners too, when we drive those roads. I appreciate you looking at it.
The reconstructability of all that is somewhat troubling from the dollar sense of
Yeah.
looking at it,
That's
but
all.
in the short term, to make some kind of preventative maintenance help there, I believe we have an option that we're gonna try.
Yeah.
We might not do all the streets, but we are gonna try it so we can look at it and evaluate.
Appreciate that.
That'll be good.
Okay?
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Okay. Dave, we'll go ahead and bring you up if you would, please, because it's just Denise and I after that. So we'll see you this afternoon.
Yep, 1:30.
Okay.
Great.
Hi, Dave.
I'm here in front of you regarding Coghlan View communication site lease with Bureau of Land Management. I got a letter from them, notice of termination. We let the lease lapse through my period. I didn't realize we had a communication site there from when I first started. I didn't even know anything about it until I got approached with it on this letter. I just didn't know about it because we haven't used it for however long. 2007, you guys redid the lease and it come due this year at July 1st, I think, or April, or so, anyway, they gave me a notice of termination. I've talked with Todd Ford, and we have two options: either tear it down, get it out of there, or fix it up and renew the lease. And kind of leaving that up to you guys of what our future will bring. Either we'll never use it again, or maybe an opportunity down the road for the site. So basically I'm giving you guys those two options, and it's kind of up to you guys to what direction you guys want me to go on that.
So, if, I don't want to interrupt you, but I can give an update on Friday. I was in office, I got a call from Surprise Valley, and they wanted to know what direction we were going. Myself, all that infrastructure as far as power lines are up there to it. And my guess is probably half a mile of power lines up to it. If we do not redo this lease, they will have to tear those out. We'll never get those back, I wouldn't think, for the cost, plus have to get I assume, a right of way across the BLM again. Ironically, Alan Parks was sitting in my office at the time, overhearing the conversation, and his thought was to never get rid of the infrastructure, which is sort of where I'm at too. With that said, I don't know that there would be any future use of this site. The only stretch in my imagination right now is if a independent radio station for broadcasting might, Paisley or even Lakeview area might have a need at some time. But I think that to preserve that infrastructure that's there, infrastructure being the power lines, the building itself is relatively cheap and easy to get back into compliance with BLM standards. I think it's worth keeping it there to evaluate if there's anything in the future. I know things going digital and all this, but I sure hate to see that amount of power pole infrastructure be taken out. So that's for discussion, because Dave needs direction, because we're getting down to that time frame. I would assume if we had minimal power there for a heater or whatever, we'd be paying $25, $30 a month. Is that investment through our facilities and lands and the other dollars we get in worth to keep infrastructure there? For me, it's a yes, just pushing it forward. But I didn't know where the both of you guys would be.
I'm kind of just the other direction, in that we haven't used it forever. I think in this day and age, the likelihood is, I mean, I understand the power lines and the cost there that run up to it, and the building upkeep would be minimal, and there's no cost to the lease being empty. But at the same time, it's another one of those dangling shads of property and what we have out there that I guess I wouldn't mind seeing us just take the building down.
I don't foresee any use of it. We haven't used it. It used to be basically TV, and that's how Commissioner Sound got his Netflix and basketball games. But he has better connections now. But I don't foresee any. What was Todd for your land management as far as just where we might use it someday?
When I talked with him, he just kind of put it on us. He really didn't have a concern about it. He just knows that it was brought forward this, saying, you know, knowing that we haven't used it, we've abandoned it for quite some years, and he knew that. And then he just kind of put it on our plate, you know, whatever we think is best. Because he said, no problem if we want to renew the lease or get rid of it. He just wants us to get rid of it, or he wants us
to use.
Or put it to use.
And we don't really have a use to put it to.
Right.
And vandalism is another aspect to it. So I'm a decision is keeping it for the sake of the power poles, which is nice. But the facility itself, we don't have a use for it. And thus, Surprise Valley doesn't have a use for power poles.
And so, yeah, I guess we need to give him direction. It might take a motion because we're opposite of that. My argument is it's not just power poles. The renewable energy people tell us, and this has nothing to do with renewable energy, but to build a mile of power lines is $1 million. So if this is half a mile or it's a mile of power lines
Close to a mile.
being taken out, if there ever was a need, you wouldn't be able to afford it. So is the value of keeping that there for the what if, for me, the investment that has went in there is there. I can't predict what, if there ever will be a need, but I'm willing to take the gamble of $500 or $600 a year to save $1 million worth of infrastructure for the in case. That's where I'm at.
Well, we're missing a little bit of information in what would the cost be to get it up to standard? And would the lease have to be for a 10-year period of time, or can it be a shorter period of time to evaluate potential needs?
Well, we were on a 2007, so a 10-year.
Yeah, this was a 10-year,
A
but
10-year lease.
We'll entertain
That's something we
something.
have to negotiate with the LM.
To bring the building up to this standard, my guess is it's not that expensive. I don't know, they have removed the meter off the side, and there is one guy wire that is broken up by the building itself. Dave has not got an evaluation from Surprise Valley what it costs to reconnect on the power part of it, as far as cleaning it up and having it to a standards that BLM would accept. Either community service or maintenance people, I think it'd be pretty minimal, but I let Dave sort of speak to that. He went up to the site.
It'd be very minimal to get the building back to where it's secured.
so well, I guess I'm wondering why, if it's disconnected, the power, why would we pay a monthly power bill?
Well, I don't know if we would have to or not, Dan. I'm guessing to save the infrastructure, maybe Surprise Valley would require that. Maybe they wouldn't at all. If we have the lease there, they might just leave it dormant the way it is today. But those are the questions that Dave hasn't been able to ask
So-
Surprise Valley.
Okay, so for the sake of making a decision with all information, is it possible that 2 weeks from now, we have this discussion with that information? Because if we can leave it as is, except for fixing, doing a little bit of upkeep to the building, then we have nothing invested essentially on an annual basis, and it's not a big deal.
I can look on my calendar, make sure I'm gonna be here in 2 weeks. Not that I have to be here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you do.
In 2 weeks, we have another commissioner meetings and so forth.
That's on the week of
The 19th.
the 19th. Next I'm here. That would be fine with me. That would, being as I got the phone call on Friday, I'm the one that pushed David forward to come before us. Does it meet the time frame of the BLM?
That's what I'm getting back to, trying to read here and see when the final dates are, or what they'll do. If we don't do something with it in a certain time, they're gonna tear it down and charge, send us a bill.
And what is that certain time?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to here. It was 90 days after this notice, not 90 days, it should be 30 days. Let me see. Yeah, we have time.
Okay. That's
2
what I
weeks,
was
2 weeks we have time.
just getting more information to make this decision. Okay.
Meanwhile, think of any possible use.
Well, I have a warming cabin for me, so when I'm out hunting.
But then we gotta hook up the electricity.
I can build a fire.
It
Put a solar panel in.
it could be a bus stop for anybody commuting from Paisley because it's
Yeah.
halfway.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Depending on weather and road condition.
Okay,
So, let me, you just need me to get
we need to know if the power would have to be hooked back
power
up
hooked
for
up and then how long the lease could be.
how long the lease could be, and while you're at it, maybe just a ballpark figure for the record on the repairs, even if it's only a few $100. That work?
And
Yeah.
any potential use.
Yeah.
That's the critical point
Okay.
for me is, do we have any of it? I don't see any. Except for your warming cabin.
Well, you could use it too.
It's kind of crowded for 2 hours.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
then I do have a request or a little bit of a department update. I'm going for a Parks and Rec grant for Egan Park, and I just want to get your condolences on that and make sure everybody's okay with it. And then also, if you are, I would like a letter of support from the board for this grant, because I need it as part of the grant process.
Is that a letter that you can draft?
Yeah, I suppose I could. I'll talk to
I'll
Denise
work
about
with
that.
Dave.
You're supposed to look to your left.
Yeah.
And say, yes, I
Yeah.
can.
Okay.
So this is adding to the, just give us a quick overview.
Well, what
of
we're
this.
dealing with is we're getting a lot of use. We've done a lot of work to it and got it clean, and it's being used a lot by, I think, the antelope, or the order of the antelope, and then Sunstone. There's people camp there all the time. But what they're up against is they're not using the designated campsites we have because of the dirt and then the weed problem we have. There's a lot of goat heads there, and it's set in pretty hard, and it's hard to keep up with it. So what I'm going to do is put in for a grant to pave the whole thing, put the campsites paved with standing barbecues and picnic tables, and just where it's more inviting for people to use. And then along with the park too, fencing and sprinkler system and all that. Because I don't know if you guys have been out there, but it's really nice right now. I mean, people are coming up to us saying, Egan Park looks awesome right now, because we've been watering and mowing it weekly, maintaining bathrooms clean. We just had a lot of support, and people are using it, and we're staying up on top of it. So the community of Plush has been really complimentary. We go in the store there, and they're really like, thank you, it looks really
Yeah.
nice. And I just want to enhance it even that much more with a little bit better sprinkler system, fencing, and just all around use of the
Campsites,
park.
pavement.
Yes.
No, that's gonna be.
And I think it's,
wonderful.
I talked to Commissioner Winters about this first, we were gonna kind of just do the RV pads, but still you're fighting those goat heads and you're still gonna get that, so I figured if we come to a conclusion, pay the whole thing, and you don't have to worry about it, and then we'll just make lines or whatever, just make it more inviting.
Well, and where it's downtown Paisley, with the barbecue, it's fire safety too.
Flush.
Flush, what did I say?
Why start to say Paisley while I go through?
Well, I was looking at Mayor Paisley to my right.
So,
No, I think it's wonderful.
Consensus from the board is what you need to go for the grant.
right,
Yes,
yes.
go for it.
Go for it.
Okay. And then we're gonna do a little bit of work to the pump house. I bought a roll-up door so we can fit a riding lawnmower, our old riding lawnmower from the courthouse. I'm transferring down there, so we don't have to trailer a lawnmower every day. Because I want to mow it every day, or every week. I mean, that's just best preventative maintenance. It looks good, and it's been very successful. So I'm gonna get a lawnmower, our old riding lawnmower out there, and I'm putting a roll-up door into the pump house where we can store it there.
And that running lawnmower has a battery in it,
Yeah,
so you're gonna have to put it on the tether for the winter.
yeah. So,
Where we at with the communication site up on Dead Indian?
where we at with that?
Yeah.
We just haven't got up there to weed eat and
As far as renewing the permit?
we got the application and all that's been, all the paperwork on with Sharon.
Submitted in, but not
Yeah,
back yet.
we haven't got nothing back yet. She's doing her stuff on it and she'll send us some copies back. So that's all in the works, so.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Next.
And I will get with you on the letter of support. I'll show you how you do it.
Okay, sounds perfect.
Okay, Denise, you've got the next 3 items. if you
Thanks.
would.
Thank you.
Okay.
Starting with budget resolution.
So, budget resolution, tomorrow we're going to have public hearing for a supplemental budget. This is for the server that was approved for the purchase of our Helion project with the assessor's office. We need to run those funds through the technology budget, as Helion also affects the clerks, since there's more than one department that runs through that technology budget, and we don't have a capital line amount. So we're taking 5,000 from the assessor, his line item, and 46, whatever it is, from my projects line in the technology budget. So that's for tomorrow.
Basically, there's no additional expenditure, it's just shifting money from one
Correct.
account.
Yep, that's right. Any other questions? Any questions? You want to do the binds?
Yes,
next?
please.
So I received an email from the state that said that during a recent audit, they noted that we were the only county that had no signed agreement for the binds program. Binds is for victims notification. If you are a victim and you have someone in prison, you get notification on when they're moved around, or if they're released or put back in custody or whatever. So this comes at no cost to the county, but we do have to have an agreement with the state. So it's just a formality.
Yeah, and Denise, does this information come through the sheriff's department?
It does come through the sheriff's
And
department.
the sheriff, under sheriff told you that it's just go forward with it?
Yeah,
You have no
yeah,
problem.
whatever we needed to do. I'm just,
You know, not for discussion, but that's a little different than the way I'd heard it before, because I was a quote-unquote victim, and it was supposed to come from Victims Advocate Program.
well, it's a little bit bigger than, because these are people that are in the prison system.
Yeah, that's
So,
what they had told me. I had to sign a form if I wanted notified when they were released, or not
Yeah,
sign it.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
okay. And then my last one is my special transportation provider biennial agreements. We kind of held off doing these until we were cleared up with the state from our recent review. Well, not recent review, it was a year ago. Hard to believe it was that long ago. So anyway, we are ready to move forward with their actual agreements for their funding that they're going to receive. Considering our conversation with our representatives this morning, once those new monies do come forward, and any other monies that were being awarded, yay, because I did put us in for additional money from discretionary fund. We'll have to do amendments to these to bring those in, but we need to get these in place.
Great.
And for the audience, that's for passing the services on to Lake County Senior Center Association and Immigrant Family.
Correct, and it's for both our entitlement dollars through the state and our federal monies that we received for transit.
So after Representative Benz mentioned this morning, being able to go across state lines and we're so close to California and everything, is there any opportunities for us to help some of the people maybe in the Pine Creek or Davis Creek area? Well, he said you have to contract with another.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some, I hadn't heard that yet, so.
I hadn't either. I
That's all
thought,
new information, so I'll have to work with Teresa and probably more Marcia and see.
but I know we've had some interest that way of people wanting to build and ride, so.
And it may be that we have to hook with the, whatever their coach is that we
Yeah.
have down there,
So,
that they come up so far and we go down so far,
yeah,
but
that's pretty interesting information.
it's all about coordinating those services. It's gonna be the same way when we're trying to go anywhere within Oregon, we're gonna be working to coordinate.
And drop off and pick up points.
Very good.
So, that's it.
So the next item is, I brought it forward, workforce funding recommendation or consideration. And what that is our current workforce provider, KCC, because of the allocations that are made, and now we have a smaller sample size. We were once a 5-county consortium with COIC, and when they weren't able to continue with that service, and KCC picked that up for both adult and youth, it became just Klamath and Lake County, and so they don't have the money in the adult program. The youth program is being taken care of in conjunction with Lake District 7. Continue that successful program that they've been offering for a number of years now. But the adult program, excuse me, they estimate they only have around $30,000 that they can put to the adult program for all sorts of different things. The mandate is the job training and enhancement there. Chip Massey, who is running that program for KCC, made a hire, my understanding was going to make the hire, I think the end of last week. And it was for a half-time position. We found in our outreach with different entities, including community corrections that I mentioned earlier, we think eventually with the DOC, potentially the Department of Corrections, but different entities, that we'd really like to see that at least at 3/4 time, if not full-time, and it's just one person in that office, just to have a couple of people in it. So in order to maybe get it moving that direction, Jake's gonna propose putting some dollars from his department, I think in the amount of $5,000 towards that. He'll come before us at a later date. But my recommendation and request today is for us to consider a $5,000 contribution for this year to the workforce program, and that would come out of our economic development dollars. So that's for your guys' consideration.
For tomorrow.
Yeah.
So-
That's for any discussion today.
Yeah, discussion on that, would this be a one-time?
Well, that's the way we're doing it right now, because behind the scenes, we're working with Congressman Walden, and he was very intrigued about the reduction from 59 million to Oregon in the year 2000 to 32 million this year. Heather Ficht, our executive director for the East Cascades Workforce Investment, she's engaged in this. We have Amy Gibbs from the Employment Oregon OED, Oregon Employment Division, engaged in this. We don't have all the answers to how we might fund it going forward, but for this year, we have many partners that are looking for extra money to help get us to full-time, and then in the interim, we're going to look towards our federal funding and see if we can't get that bump back up to the point where we have a fully funded position. Because there's no extra bells and whistles, it's just getting the position funded and a little bit towards some potential grant. We're gonna have a meeting with all of those partners. I think it's on the 19th. I have it written down there, but we changed the date. But I'll let you two know when that gets firmed up. But I'm gonna meet with them and we're gonna do a little walk around as far as potential sites to house the service. Right now, in this interim between COIC departing and KCC taking over, they're actually down at the Innovation Learning Center, which is not a suitable place for that particular service.
For the adult.
Yeah. So
So,
to answer your question, yes, it's only being asked as a one-time.
one time, and then Jake might have a proposal later on. What's the total amount? There's 30,000 available for the program. What's it taking to fund the position?
Well, it's gonna probably be close to 60.
Okay. So you're looking for other partners out there to pick up potentially other money?
Yeah, well, yes. If we approve the 5 and Jake has the 5 and we approve that being spent that way, then yes. And that doesn't take into account rent. That's one of the things we're looking for, partnerships, you know, within the community where it might be able to be housed that's in partnership or some in-kind contribution, something.
You shouldn't just work this out in a meeting, but they'd be housed in the courthouse.
Well, that would be up to us as to whether or not we would think that would be suitable. All those
I mean,
things.
does it fit would it be too much, is there synergies that make it work?
Well, as a matter of fact, Jake mentioned that to me, and I said, well, I need to bring that to the board after we've.
Then I probably shouldn't have brought it now.
No. But that is a possibility. We're looking at 2 or 3, as you, I think, are aware, we're looking at 2 or 3 potential sites, but Heather's reaching out to some of these entities here in the county and having some discussions on that, as well as some of the existing buildings that might be able to house it. All a work in progress. Today, I was just wanting to see if there was any discussion that you wanted to have on a possible contribution that we could talk about tomorrow for a decision.
And that's, would be a contribution to the adult workforce.
Right.
The juvenile or
Is taken care
is
of.
taken care of.
Yeah.
And how would this fit for countywide?
The same program, probably a little more enhanced because of their connections than COIC had, but it would only be a singular position, and that would be here in Lakeview.
That's kind of wondering if that person could be a traveling.
We definitely can have that, you know, it's a whole new ballgame, so we can have that discussion with the provider, KCC, excuse me, with Chip. And
But if it's traveling at least once a week or something like that, then there's additional costs.
yes. Yep.
But we need to be looking at that kind of.
The only way we can consider this is the video lottery dollars came in higher than, because we pretty much wore that out, so.
Yeah, I chatted with Denise a little bit on it, and she's got, what, 11,000 more now or something like that.
So,
But
opportunity.
we have 10 of that already devoted to a trip to Cancun, didn't you?
I told him.
Well, that,
Not Cancun.
that's good that we have the opportunity.
Okay. Well, we
Well, the
can,
workforce, the juvenile is covered, and we need to cover the adult.
Yep. Yep.
okay, well, it's on the agenda tomorrow, and we'll have that further discussion.
Well, one more question.
Okay?
I would imagine it wouldn't be leveraged or utilized unless there was funding found to fully fund it all the way.
Yeah, well, I would take a step back from that and say that if Chip's goal right now, because he's trying to be conservative, is to get it up to 3/4 time.
Okay.
So this would all go towards that if we approve it.
As long as we know what we're,
Yeah, spending that on.
yep,
Yeah, they're very excited about the county and both of those program areas being willing and so supportive of the workforce. And OED, as I said, Oregon Employment Division, it's been hinted at, we had a conference call with him, he was on it, that this workforce person, typically in order to serve all of our citizens, particularly when we have big layoffs, does cross over, whether it's supposed to be or not, we do it, and we provide that service to our community. So we're hoping they find some loose change in the couch.
I would assume somebody's going to the town, probably.
No one has went to the town yet. You know, I told Chip the other day, my old favorite saying, driving my own lane. And I'm going to be giving him a lot of entities because it is a program that they're contracted to provide. I want to help in any way, but there's a point where they need to make the
Well, they
connections.
have to, yep.
Yeah,
So
so,
that's not our, okay.
okay, very
Good
good.
update.
Liaison updates.
I can give an update. You guys are both aware, fair this last weekend, obviously Friday morning, we found out that there had been a grease fire in the kitchen at the
Thursday
fairgrounds.
morning.
Huh?
Thursday morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Opening day.
Yes, it was Thursday morning. I lost a few days this
Mhm.
weekend. Thursday morning, been working with Jay on our insurance side of it, Andrew Rucker on the special district side of the insurance. It was the food booth is one that was involved. A company named Rainbow has been in and done the mitigation right off the bat, cleaned up, removed the ceiling tiles and everything. Jay's working right now, make contact back with Rainbow to come in. They have to come in and do their second phase. It was all safe for the weekend. They'll come in and do the second phase. The two insurance companies, CIS and Special Districts. Jay's still working with whether we'll be the lead or they'll be the lead. I think that it might end up us being the lead, which is okay. Then, as far as I'm concerned, then we know who and when and what's going to happen down there. But that sort of gets between the insurance companies. Still was very successful for the 4-H.
Can you expand a little bit on the magnitude of damage by the fire?
The suppression system came on. There was a grease fire from a grease cooker that was on top of the pilot light. The suppression system came in, extinguished it. The smoke damage was extensive within the kitchen, and the serving area was the secondary in the smoke. None of the exhibit building was damaged. All ceiling tiles have been removed. A couple pieces of equipment have been removed, no longer able to use, and food products were gone. The stove itself melted the handles on the range, the stove, the gas stove. It's got to be looked at. If it's repairable, it has to be replaced. The suppression system is dated. It's a powder system now. It's required to have a liquid system, so it has to be replaced to the new system. Dollar amount, can't even give it a guess until the insurance adjusters are there on that. We did rapidly work, and we were able to, the sheriff approved, and we got the search and rescue kitchen over there, so the Parents Club and the 4-H was up and operating in a relatively short time. And they done a very good job. Those volunteers, I can't say enough about the volunteers that stepped up to make things happen and continue going. So that was the good. Bad news is, you know, if that suppression system wouldn't have got that, we may not have a fair.
Yeah,
The whole building and all Vendor Row probably would have been completely wiped out, so very fortunate. That gives a very clear picture of how important a suppression system is and how well they work, because there was no knowledge of it happening until the door was opened the next morning. So that was very good. Other than that, I just want to make sure and bring that forward to you guys, where Jay's working. And the Fair Board, naturally, we're all right involved with it, our director out there.
very good. Good. I'll be gone all of next week, or essentially all of next week. We have our annual field trip with Lake meeting. It will be in Southern California and a whole bunch of different places, so I'll be gone.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, I have been asked to be on the interview panel for the area committee on the area manager, the district manager for ODOT. So the week of, whatever, the 25th, I believe I have a couple days, I will be on the interview panel with the region director for ODOT to pick area manager and district manager for ODOT.
Okay.
Still working with Jay on the public health agreement draft that the Lake Health District provided. You want to send it up to OHA, get their comments on it. Flowery Park, I mentioned a month or so ago, maybe going for a grant. I've been waiting for it to get some drawings and cost estimates from the designer of the Flowery Park. No cost to us, but he's had a couple of knee surgeries and things, and I just haven't. Hopefully I can get that before the deadline for Oregon Park and Rec application. If not, then I will have to carry it over to next year.
Now, do you have any dollar amount that, if I remember right, it was a relatively, just not smaller, but just not an expensive memorial, it's just going to be a plaque and some different things, at least I heard that at one time.
Yeah. If this is Flowery Park, and to get the Park and Rec grant, it has to be on county municipal property. And if we put that property right adjacent and fund most of it with the grant, we're gonna put a flagpole up anyway, that can contribute. But I'm waiting on a dollar amount to do that. Also, I'm waiting on he gave me a view of just what that plaque area would be. But I'm waiting for a bird's eye view of the whole Flowery Park, the annex, and how, so you can get a visual of how it really fits. He's had some health issues, which is but I'm hoping that sets things up. Maybe the grant pays for most of it. Maybe we have a veterans potluck or something to raise a little money, because that goes heavily with the contribution for Park and Rec grant. And I'm looking at hopefully just a flagpole, since we're going to place a new one anyway, and the plaque itself. And hopefully we have grant money and other contributions to cover the stonework. But I just don't have the figures yet, because we've been out on health issues. On the PM advance plan for air quality with the state DEQ and EPA. You guys met with Rachel and others the other day, and we're looking at a date later this month. If we can get a copy back, everybody review it. Maybe a joint meeting with the town council for both of us to make decisions. We've done that, I think, on the original PM advance.
We're in the third year of a 5-year, so this is just a review, isn't it? No.
It's just some minor updates.
So there wanting to amend the,
It'd be big. I'm trying to recollect our meeting the other day. It took a couple of little additives to beef it up. And let's see where we are. As soon as I get that back from Rachel, it goes out to you.
okay,
But
yeah,
nothing substantial.
okay, yeah.
And it's not expanding the area, because I asked Rachel, and I said, we're not proposing an extension of the area. And she said,
So it's the town and urban growth. But when I get that revised copy with any small edits, we'll get it out. But I need to confirm the date. Later this month is to be out. I figured we were just join the town council as we did previously and have a special session. Yes. We had been left, as you know, we've been below the air quality standard. Weather patterns have been a big player in that. This past January, we shot over it. And so hopefully we can have better weather this coming winter to keep us below that standard. Last thing we want is to get designated a non-attainment that could potentially have an impact on red light and many other things. Anyway, those are what I have.
okay. Well, if there's nothing else that needs to come before the board today, a work session at 11:35, we will adjourn.